In 2020, the voter-approved Measure 110 legalized the possession of some very dangerous drugs. 4 years later, it became clear on both sides of the political aisle it just wasn't working. On September 1st of this year, drug possession once again became a crime, but with a significant difference this time, something called deflection. And Deschutes County became one of the state's first to put it into action, driven by the urgency to make drug addiction and overdose death a crisis arrested.
We're going to go down 2nd Street now.
Pick a night on the streets of Bend, and Officer Joel Sandals will show you where you don't want to be when the sun goes down.
They do drugs over here.
Drug activity and addiction in this sleepy little mountain town has become a big problem.
We were getting bombed. We were just getting flooded with and inundated with people who were under the influence or using drugs or whatever, and we just could not do anything about it unless there was a substantial quantity.
Street cops like Sandals will tell you Measure 110 injected an unmanageable crisis in Bend and communities across the state.
When I would find people out here with small amounts of drug paraphernalia or drugs, and all I gave them was that $100 ticket, I've had people laugh at me.
They've seen this impact for 4 years, and they're tired of it.
As you can imagine, the buy-in from local police is pretty high.
We imported addiction to our state. We brought people into the state because it wasn't illegal to use heavy narcotics.
We really?
I think we did.
Okay.
I think we did.
The legalization of drug possession did make addiction even easier. Just ask an addict like Alex Lesser.
Very difficult to imagine doing anything besides using and then looking for, my next fix.
But addiction is a tough life. That is, if you can survive it.
One of the first times I tried fentanyl, I actually did overdose. Woke up surrounded by EMTs and police officers after consuming a very small amount of it.
A Redmond traffic stop caught Alex behind the wheel in the throes of a fentanyl high and in possession of even more. But it also gave him the chance to be Deschutes County's very first deflection client, a chance to skip jail, skip charges, and make a move on sobriety. He did not have to be asked twice.
Third DUI for me, possession charges along with that, and I'm gonna end up in prison. 1 second I'm just an addict, doing what addicts do, and the next moment I'm full-on criminal, getting ready to go to prison.
And folks like Alex tend to become all too familiar with places like this. One of the goals of the original Measure 110 was to make sure our local jails weren't filling up with minor drug offenders. That goal really hasn't changed, but there's a difference now that possession is a crime again. These offenders have a choice. They can go to jail or enter the deflection program. And let's be honest, the majority of those who will be offered deflection are familiar faces to the jailers in places like this. Barrett Hamilton knows the life of an addict well. He also knows his decades of drug use and criminal activity did not help the quality of life for the rest of us here in Central Oregon.
Active addiction for 27 years. Been a criminal for the whole 27 years. In and out of jails and prison.
Now sober for 12 years and a deflection program manager, he and his employer, Best Care Treatment Services, jumped at the chance to help make the new version of 110 work.
It shows that the police care. It shows that, the officer is taking their time to, instead of just taking you to jail, bring you down here and try to get you help. This allows us to have rapid access to outpatient services, our addiction medicine clinic that's part of Best Care, and our detox facility.
Someone else who knew Barrett very well is Deschutes County Deputy Neil Marchington. He says where there's crime in a community like ours, addiction is usually driving it.
I've seen very, very little property crime that isn't connected to drugs in my career here.
Marchington is now the administrator of the deflection program at the jail. In fact, he spent most of his 17 years here trying to convince addicts to seek sobriety. But now, there's an added incentive.
They're taking folks into treatment that aren't even in trouble with the law, that are just asking for help. So this has had peripheral good where law enforcement sees this option, they see this new tool as a way to help people even before crimes are committed.
That was the case for Deflection's second client, 24-year-old Ben Hale, busted for possession, a homeless addict who stumbled into the program without a criminal record after years of using.
Being the active change in your life and truly turning your life around, you become a whole different person.
Ben says he sought treatment dozens of times in the past, but was always too poor or too high to get it.
When I am out in nature and I'm able to truly let my walls down.
Ben's escape from his life's trauma now requires no pipe or pill. It happens here, a waterfront spot at Sawyer Park.
The deflection program is about giving these addicts a chance to better their lives and thus create a better society and a better community.
For Ben Police Chief Mike Kranz, this is the kind of tool, he says, that could help hundreds turn the corner.
What's now is what I think our community thought they were getting when they voted for ballot measure 110.
Anytime Alex thinks about turning back, he thinks about that morning, the fentanyl, the tap on his driver's side window.
Immediately they pulled me out of the truck, put me in handcuffs, and I'm thinking, this is going to be bad. This is life-altering at this point.
From life-altering to life-changing, Alex has made the kind of progress on sobriety that can take many months to achieve. He says his navigator, Shonda Jennings, an ideal option, did that. Medication-assisted treatment, detox, and housing. And until now, something you rarely heard someone say about Measure 110.
The definition of being a human, to one another is different as far as addicts go. And when you're offered the compassion that I received, it brings that humanity back. And sometimes that's all it takes, I think, is showing that bit of humanity that is lost, in the world that addicts live in.
Deschutes County received nearly $850,000 from state grants issued when parts of Measure 110 were repealed. $20 million went to counties statewide. That's a lot of your tax money being poured into the addiction community. But consider this. Cities and towns across Deschutes County will spend millions this year repairing the damage, housing the offenders, investigating the crimes, and jailing the convicted whose actions were driven solely by addiction. The Deschutes County Sheriff's Office and its partners just want to give deflection a chance to be one factor in making sure Measure 110's damage becomes a crisis arrested. I'm David Clue, Central Oregon Daily News.